call the Public Works and Planning Committee to order. We'll call on Mr. Stevens for prayer.
Let's pray. Our Lord and Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the blessings of today. Father, we're so thankful for all of the beauty that we have around us, and we're thankful for this great county in which we live and for our constituents that we serve. Father, I pray that tonight that we'll all have clear minds and make good choices based on the information that's presented to us, and that our motives will be proper. Lord, bless us tonight as we do make those decisions, and give us your wisdom and your spirit as we do that. We pray all this through Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. First order to be approved minutes last meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion made and second, approved minutes last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first up, be building codes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Mr. Jones.
I have a paper copy and a copy on your iPad of the Building Codes Department for February. We issued 165 permits for February. Fees taken in was $200 for plan review, $58,460 for building permit fees, $5,425 for plumbing fees, $725 for gas permits, for a total of $64,810. On the back of that report shows our totals for the year compared to last year. Last February we issued 47 single families, this year 57. And our total for February, total permits 165 compared to 164 last year. Our cumulative total for this year is 104 single family dwellings. That is up 23 single family dwellings from last year's total at that time, and 360 total permits issued this year compared to 305 last year. We're up 55 total permits. February was a short month, 19 days. We issued 57 permits and had one snow day, so 3 permits a day on the housing was a pretty busy month for February. Our next report is our zoning enforcement on property standards. We performed 131 inspections for property standard complaints, and we received 13 new cases in February. Our total cases to the right there is didn't print out our total for the year. It should be 31 new cases for the year. Also on sign inspections should be 37 and 11 on BZA case inspections. I'm sorry, I just caught that just recently before after the report got sent to you. So our total inspections for this year are 253 property standard inspections. Our next report is our collection for our development tax. Building Codes Department took in $152,250. The Planning Department took in $173,250 for a total of $325,500. Cumulative total for the year, $2,293,500. Down below that is the jurisdictions that they were collected in and their totals. Murfreesboro City, we collected from them $240,000 was our largest development for February, and that was mostly plats and single-family dwelling house permits. This time usually it's apartments when you see those large numbers like that, but I tried to run that down, and it was mostly new subdivision plats and single-family permits.
The building codes portion, 152,000,
Mm-hmm.
is the half of the development tax that's paid when a permit is pulled?
That's true.
Essentially.
The plat, when it's recorded, pays $750.
Or that's the planning
And
lots
then
portion.
when the building permit is issued, we collect the $750
Okay.
also. Sometimes if it's not collected when the plat is recorded, we collect the total $1,500 in the building codes department when the permit's issued. That happens a lot when plats are recorded without boundary lines and things like that, like zero lot lines and things like that in the city. And then we collect $1,500 per unit after it comes in.
So we had a bunch of lots were platted this month, a
Mhm.
bunch.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and it shows in their numbers. If you look back at December and January, then planning
400 lots.
developed lots for the planning monies taken in was up quite a bit.
Most of which is in Murfreesboro. 240,000 is.
Yeah, that's a good number.
Thank you.
That's my building codes department report, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody got any more questions you need to ask David?
I'll move that we approve this report.
I second that.
Motion made to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Our, I do have a budget transfer, but I believe I'll go over the budget first, and that kind of explains the budget transfer a little bit also. The building codes department request this year for personnel. I would like to have a building inspector and a zoning inspector. I have that in the budget at this time. It's kind of going back to where we were several years ago in 2006 and 7. 2005 and 6 we had 13 people. 2006-7 we had 13 people. And 7 and 8 we had 15 people. And 2008 and 9 budget we had 15 people. We lost those people, of course, when our numbers and workload went down. So we're down to 12 people at this time and have been since 2009 10 budget. I would like to put those 2 people back in the budget for our workload. We have had good numbers come back in on our activity for our building development. Also, our building inspectors have had to be recognized by the state as state exempt, and they have to have more certifications now, and we get audited by the state that we're doing our inspections and doing them properly. So we've got a lot more hoops and numbers to meet. Our building inspectors' numbers are getting over about 10 inspections per day, which exceeds the ISO rating for the number of inspections that they should be doing. Time taken out for extra certifications and testing and education classes, continued education, really gets into our daily work schedule. So our deputies would be up in that category, showing our new personnel. Our salary supplements would be 140, and that would be $1,000 more for a salary supplement for a building inspector. Our clerical persons stay the same. Longevity goes up. Our
Can I ask a question? Where is that, your budget? I'm not seeing it on the iPad.
Notice happened.
it's not on the iPad at all.
Just the amendment.
The amendment's on the iPad, but I'm not seeing the budget.
Okay, I apologize. I may need to, do I need to copy them?
Yep, they need copies to look at.
If you wanna do your budget amendment, maybe we can.
Okay, let's do,
Let me have your, I'll run down and make a copy.
okay, sorry, I apologize. I thought it was on the iPad.
Take care of that. You have to go in the office.
The budget transfer. I can find it. The budget transfer ties in with our budget that we're asking for this year with our putting notebooks and computers in the trucks for the building inspectors to use. There is an Ultrabook convertible that we would like to purchase for each truck, would allow the building inspectors and zoning inspectors to have a computer use in their trucks, and it is a tablet, changes into a tablet also that they can even take into the house, list inspection requirements. These units are about $1,200 a piece. I would like to get 2 of them out of this year's budget, and then I could get 4 that I've got listed in our new budget. So what I would like to do to get those units in the trucks would be to transfer $3,000 from other contracted services in $399 and put it into data processing equipment 709, and that would be increase in that. Well, that line item we really don't even have in our budget this year, but we would be putting that line item back in our budget this year with $3,000 for the purchase of 2 units.
So it's a wash. You're drawing it out of one account and just placing it.
Right, yeah, it's within our budget.
And the other contracted services will not need that revenue. that
Our other
expense.
contracted services is where we pull maintenance on property, cutting the grass and things like that, and putting the liens on the property. If we have to, we do a demolition of a house, which we haven't done in several years now, so hopefully that won't come up with our property standards getting better, you know, and those properties going back into the market. So I don't look at using a lot of that money this year. The maintenance department cuts our grass down for us, and then we still place a lien on the property. So that's in the maintenance department's budget more so than it is not ours now. So that decrease, I don't think will harm us at all this year on that other contracted services.
Well, I move that we approve the budget amendment.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the budget amendment. Anybody got any questions? You call the roll?
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Going back to our budget, now that you have a copy, I'm sorry, again, apologize for that, but going back to our budget again, you can see that our deputies on 106 is the increase for the inspectors. 140 would be our supplementary salary for that one building inspector. Our clerical persons stay the same other than just cost of living raise, longevity pay, boards and memberships, 191, this is our appeals board, it stays the same. Social Security, state retirement, employment, disability insurance. Going down to 307, communication. We are asking for those people to have portable telephones, desk phones, and that would be the reason for communications to being increased. Also, in that 307 would be air cards, modems to operate the wireless computers in the trucks. So we've increased that communication line item from 5,000 to 8,900. Our data processing service on our cable drops for our new people would be $500. Our dues and memberships stayed the same. Our maintenance agreement went down a little bit from 13 to 1,000. Postal charges, 1,000, stayed the same.
Maintenance on what?
Agreement with our copy machine. We have to maintain that copier of maintenance. I think that's our only maintenance agreement we have. Our postal charges stayed the same. Our printing and stationery is the same. Our travel went up about $1,000 for our new persons to go to their training and help them with certifications. Other contracted services, as you see, we've got it coming down to $3,000 for our new budget year. Our gasoline, we increased to 20. We had 17 in this year, so we don't know where that's going really, but with the increase that we're asking for 2 new people, we've got 2 new people on the road. That's that increase on gasoline.
Let me ask you.
Mhm.
So the amended budget was the budget year that we're in now. The current year
Yes.
actual
Our-
incurred is expended to date,
Yes,
$11,474 expended as of January 7th, correct?
right, and then.
And then what is the next line?
The next line is encumbered, where we have purchase orders out in that category.
Okay. Thank you.
Office supplies, we increased office supplies from 5,002 to 7,1 for computer monitors for the 2 new people. Also the desks, chairs, desk phones, anything that they need in the office or in the trucks. Uniforms increased $100. Other supplies and materials stayed the same. Our in-service training and development went up $1,500 for testing and books. Usually our testing for our building inspectors, I mean, it takes about $168 to be tested for one certification. So by the time you add all the certifications up that they need, it takes about $1,300 to get one person certified. So that's the reason for that increase. Computers, those are the notebooks that would go in the trucks for next year. And the air cards, let's see, that'd be the notebooks, air cards would be under, I'm sorry, let me come back. That would just be the computer notebooks and the computers on the desks. Motor vehicles, we're asking for 2 vehicles. And the total, $1,042,377. And that's our request for 2015-16.
Anybody got any questions you need to ask, David?
The new people that you're wanting to put on, one was an inspector and the other one was what?
Zoning inspector.
Zoning inspector,
Right.
and the other being a building inspector.
Right.
How many of each one of those do you have now?
We have 4 residential building inspectors, 1 commercial building inspector, and I only have 2 people in zoning right now, which is Miss Criswell, which she's the zoning official, and 1 field inspector. So when she shouldn't leave the office. In other words, her position is supposed to be pretty well fixed in the office to answer phone calls, do liens, court cases, letters. That's where she should be. And she's been having to go out and do inspections. Also, what I've done to help zoning is to take a building inspector, and I've had a building inspector assigned to zoning unless a building inspector's out, where then he goes back to building codes. So we've,
So they
over
can
the last few
fluctuate
years,
back and
we've
forth.
been back and forth with our zoning inspection for sure on that, and with the workload on zoning.
Does the revenue that comes into your budget, does that go to the general fund or does it stay?
General fund.
So is the revenue that's coming in sufficient to support these 2 new employees?
No. The revenue right now currently doesn't support the budget, I mean, that we currently have. It has in years past been very, very close. But we had to reduce those expenses back a few years ago, and there's still, the number of employees are still down there.
Last year's revenues taken in was $698,591.
So can we support the new proposed employees with the money that we have coming in?
Well, this is, the remarks I made to you earlier. We have to look at the big picture, so I've listened to his request, and I'll make a decision to recommend something at the budget committee. It's likely not going to be everything he's asked for.
I think it would be wise really to, as we increase revenues and so on, as the economy bounce back, to, take it one step at a time, maybe do 1 additional person instead of trying to do 2 at one time, see how things are gonna play and so on in the coming year, because we're not guaranteed that things are gonna stay the way they are right now. I mean, yeah, we see improvement, but it's nowhere near where it was back when you had that, the number you're talking about.
I went back and did a 27-year average. Our 27-year average for issuing permits was 2,038 for total building permits. We issued 2,538 last year. Our average for single-family dwellings per year in that 27-year period is 691 homes per year. We issued 633 last year, so we're still, not at our average, but getting real close to that average, and of course, that's where our revenues come in, is our single-family dwellings. So we issued 633 compared to an average of 691. Of course, if we go back to 2009-10, we just issued 321. So we're up from 321 5 years ago to we've doubled it.
Did you say you wasn't gonna support these?
I said, I have reviewed this with him, and there is some probability that even though he's made a strong case for his needs, that I won't recommend fully everything he's asked for.
Which of those 2 positions do you think you need more?
I think our zoning officer would serve us best right now in the whole department, because if I could only request one person, I would request the zoning officer, and that would release my person that's even been helping in zoning, you know. So I think that would benefit our department more, just to, if I had to choose.
Is there any cross-training, like can they, you said that they can kind of do both earlier, or?
It's possible. We've had zoning officers go to building inspectors. Once we have a zoning officer that would like to, you know, get some certifications along, we've had them turn into building inspectors, yes.
And then my other question is about the 2 trucks that you're asking for. When's the last time that y'all had a new vehicle?
We didn't have one in this year's budget, but year before, we did get a new vehicle. We've got 3 trucks that have right around 150,000 miles on them. But we do have that new one that we got 2013-14 budget.
So how many miles does a truck drive each year normally?
We do about 60 or 80 miles a day on one truck.
This total miles driven on your other report, is that all?
That's
all of
per
your-
month on all
Yeah.
of the vehicles, yeah.
How many vehicles?
Normally, we have at least 5 on the road every day, maybe 6.
5, you got 6, you got 6 inspectors on the road.
You're right, yeah. Sometimes the zoning officers don't go out as much as the building inspectors. We've got at least 5 out every day.
How many miles you gonna put on these vehicles, so you do have to have them?
Normally, they start giving us some transmission trouble. We've even had one engine rebuilt in one of our trucks at about, 160, 180,000 miles.
I realize some point in time, just like anybody else, you gotta have them, I just kind of get mad in my mind.
Yeah, we've got, let me pass out what I've got right here.
The 2 new trucks, are they replacements or additions?
These would be, probably, I would replace the one with the most mileage on it, and we might fit, with a new person, we would have to have one new one.
See, 1.
These are our mileage, and these are the years of the vehicles that we have right now.
You more likely talking about one vehicle, if the mayor sitting here saying he's not gonna include no new papers. I think that's what we.
Yeah, if we get one person, of course, we need one truck,
I'd like
for
to
sure.
I'd like to make a motion, and then we can further discuss it. I move that we pass this budget along to budget as recommended, as presented here, minus the building inspector and all associated equipment and so on that goes with that we recommend recommend to budget the zoning inspector, if that's your preference. And then we can discuss it further from there. Get the motion on the table.
We got a
Get
motion.
second.
I'll second your motion if it also includes only one truck.
I said remove everything from, that would include removal of one vehicle, removal of
Okay.
the associated computer equipment, et cetera, all the associated costs of that additional person.
Well, I'll second.
So we're eliminating the people and the truck?
One person
Just one? And one truck?
and one truck.
And 1 computer and 1,
All that
One
stuff.
anything.
One
that-
desk, one telephone, one.
whatever you
yeah,
have in the
exactly,
budget.
yes.
If he's not gonna get that new person, he's not gonna need it for a minute.
Yeah,
That's
right.
simple. That's your motion.
It ain't mine, it says.
I mean, you got a second on it?
Second.
Got any more questions then before we vote on it?
The biggest problem with all of these budgets is the benefits. I've been saying this for years too, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tell everybody, we will be voting on a different benefit plan, one way or another this year for the insurance and the pensions. But I added up this, the health insurance, pensions, and the life insurance is 20.4% of our budget. I mean, that is just a couple of years ago, it was 17%. It's gonna keep growing and growing and growing, and we can't afford to keep doing this anymore. So we will be voting on that one way or another, so just be ready for it. But that's the biggest driver of our increases that I can see, so.
More discussion.
You want a roll call?
Roll call.
Hang on before you call. Please, ma'am. You're gonna call my name first, I'm not ready. So we suggest that we go ahead and go ahead and restrict.
Well, they can add it back in at any time. They can add it back. That's just our recommendation. Remember, this is strictly a
Yeah,
recommendation.
and it's just the first level, I understand that. Okay, that answers my question, thank you.
We're gonna end up with a final recommendation from the mayor anyway.
Yes, sir,
Mhm.
yes. Okay. Proceed with the roll call if you wish.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Appreciate the budget transfer. And even though y'all cut, I appreciate y'all's support as usual. Y'all do great on supporting our building codes department. There's no doubt about that. Thanks.
Okay. Plan and report.
Mr. Chairman, the highway department's going to jump in front of us. I think they just have a quick item.
Okay, y'all, come on up in. We'll get the highway department first, please, boys. Come on in.
Evening, Commissioners.
Hey, guys.
We'll give you a quick break from budget. What we have in front of you here is 4 easements for drainage. These 4 easements will cross 4 properties, and that's why we need the 4 easements. It is 1 drainage ditch that we're looking to add to release some drainage in the Crescent Glen subdivision.
The new lots that were created, are they creating more drainage? Are you putting drainage between the 2 lots?
There's no new lots being created, just a
Those are re-subdivision of lots. So-
It is a platted drainage easement that the county is going to accept as a drainage easement is what we're bringing before you, so that we can have the authority to go in and clean up the ditch line in areas and then reestablish ditch line in another area, so that the flooding on the rear of the lots can go where it was intended to when the subdivision was created.
When was Crescent Glen built?
That I don't know.
So this is an established subdivision?
Oh, yes,
And
sir.
we're mitigating some lack of drainage?
Yes.
At the county's expense on the subdivision that's been completed?
Yes, sir. So we're going back in and cleaning up this ditch line to try to help the residents there with the flooding there at the rear of their properties.
You have had a lot of time.
We haven't had a lot lately, but yeah, we've
In the past, I know.
Where's
You're
Crescent
gonna
Glen?
have them, so you got a crew that does that.
Barfield Crescent. Okay.
down there off Midland.
Midland, that's right.
Down there off Midland.
Okay.
I won't make a motion.
Yeah, I move to accept this as presented. Excuse me, Rob. I'll second your recommendation.
I'll second yours or whoever she wrote down first.
There's something needs to be done.
Yeah, we definitely need to take care of the homeowners out there.
Okay, we need to call roll this vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Have a good evening.
Okay. Lenny?
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, hope you're all doing well tonight. Just before we get into our budget, we'll just go over our normal report that we've got, and I believe Mr. Hughes has a budget amendment as well that I'll let him get into before we get into that. Instead of handing out a paper copy of the recorded plats and non-recorded plats available lot inventory, we can get them for you if you want them, but they are on your iPad, so I just went ahead and let me go back to that particular one here. Okay, as you can see on the, it's on here. Okay. I guess that'd be the second full page, the back of that. You can see our total available lots is down to about 748. Even from this time last year, that's a pretty significant decrease, almost 200 lots. As David talked about just a few moments ago, he's seeing quite a bit of more building permit activity, so that's reflected in our total lot inventory, the decrease that we've been seeing pretty consistently for the last year or two. The last part of that report is the not recorded subdivision plat list, and it's interesting that I'm seeing a lot more 2014, 2015 dates in here. We're seeing more and more subdivisions. So far this year, we've already seen 4 preliminary plans submitted to our office. They haven't been huge subdivisions, but we're already looking at about 70 new lots being created in Rutherford County. Now, those are still not, those are still working through the process. They'll still have to have construction drawings, final plats be recorded and all that, but we're seeing more and more of those going through the pipeline. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them on that.
You see a particular section of the county that these are going towards, or are they just all over? You don't
It's
see a
really
pattern?
kind of, I don't necessarily see a pattern. I think it's really more scattered. We have one rezoning request for you coming up next week. It's a pretty straightforward request. This piece of property is located along Franklin Road, Old Fort Parkway, whatever you.
Do we have that one?
It's a little
No,
farther down on the list.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking on the iPad?
Anywhere.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's on the iPad.
So this one will be sent to, right?
Yes, sir.
See capital budget.
Yes,
budget
that-
worksheet,
that-
planning and
Planning
engineering
and
report.
report.
Planning
Yes.
reported budget.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, it's Planning and Engineering Report 3315. That's the document we're looking at.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Again, the property is located at 3147 Franklin Road or Old Fort Parkway. It's on the south side. The property actually had a single-family dwelling on it several years ago, but was removed as part of the widening project for Franklin Road when they widened out to 5 lanes. The current size of the property, it's a little over 12,000 square feet, which makes it a non-conforming lot in the zoning district it's in. The minimum lot requirement is 15,000 square feet. It's been sitting in this state for quite some time. No real development. I don't really foresee any kind of development ever occurring on it from a residential standpoint. The applicant would like to take this property and actually combine it with the property immediately to the west. You see it's zoned office professional. There's an existing business there, and what they would like to do is combine it and just make some additional parking for the existing business that's located on the property at 3167. If you look at the aerial photo in the agenda materials, just a few pages beyond the staff report, you can kind of see that there's some existing parking there, but their business is doing well and they're needing some additional parking area for it. So what they're asking for is to zone that piece of property to office professional, which is the same zoning which it's adjacent to, just to be used as a parking area. It will still have to have buffering to the property to the south. We did have a public hearing on this. There wasn't anyone that spoke in opposition to this. It was a very straightforward request. We would expect to see a site plan on this as well, demonstrate proper drainage, traffic control, those kind of things. We're recommending, and I think the applicant is pretty much on board with the access coming off of Franklin Heights Drive as opposed to another access point onto Franklin Road. Of course, it'll tie into the existing parking area, the access drive that hits Franklin Road from the property to the west, so they'll have a couple access points in and out. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on that request.
any questions? Somebody wanna make a motion to approve his report?
So move. Second.
Motion is second to approve his report. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Like if you want to go ahead and do your budget amendment.
Okay. I have a single budget amendment which reflects a contract that we had with the Discovery Center here in Murfreesboro. They provided services for a Project WET coordinator, which would, Project WET is wet education for teachers. It's a part of the state's and the EPA's requirement that we educate teachers, which in turn educate children about water, stormwater, water conservation. And the Discovery Center can no longer provide the services for us. So what we're going to do is transfer money from the contract that we had, line item 312, and put it into a part-time personnel, which will work under the stormwater budget, and also Social Security and employer fees. The Project WET is funded through stormwater fees from the various municipalities around. There's Smyrna, Murfreesboro, Laverne, and then also Rutherford County also kicks into it. So this is not new money, but we're transferring from a contract amount to a part-time amount, and we'd like to move the Project WET coordinator to come to work for us as a part-time employee. So, and we'll be using the money that's already in our budget to cover the rest of this year, and then I'll talk more about it in my stormwater budget.
The total amount that this part-time person is going to require is 34,000. Am I reading this right?
No.
Or the 4?
4,000.
Okay.
But that 3715 would be part-time income, and then but also a little bit from Social Security and Medicare.
Okay.
Any other questions? I wanna make a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Call roll, huh?
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
No, thank you. A little premature. All right, did you want me to go ahead with my budget?
If you want, yeah,
Okay.
go ahead and just go on.
I'll start with the stormwater budget for 2015, 2016, and the majority of the items are very similar, except for where we've added money to part-time personnel. That it'll be for a whole entire part-time year would be $15,000, which, like I said, is coming from the stormwater money from municipalities and Rutherford County. We will decrease, I could go line by line, but the major items, we're increasing the part-time salary. We are adding a little bit for training in line 196. We are adding a tablet license, or a monthly fee for communications on 307, which is going to bump it up a little bit. We're decreasing $30,000 from line 312, contracts with private agencies. That was through the contract we had with Discovery Center that we're now just transferring this money to other line items. We've increased a little bit for gasoline. We're not adding any vehicles. We're going to share the existing vehicles we have. We have office space and desk phones, so we won't be adding anything like that. We are increasing off the other supplies and materials line 499 for, this is the supplies that they have to provide for the teachers in their daily function as a project web coordinator. And then we're requesting a tablet for the project web coordinator in line 709 for $750.
So bottom line, you're asking for about 6,000 more.
Yes, sir.
What is your main source of revenue?
It would be land disturbance permits and the stormwater fees from the other municipalities now.
Your land disturbance permits come from every development?
Yes, sir. Anything over an acre, we'll have a land disturbance permit, and that's part of our income for stormwater. Rutherford County does not implement a stormwater fee like the other municipalities do, so that's one area we'd like to address in the future, but right now we don't.
But you receive some stormwater income from the municipality?
Yes.
They share with you?
Yeah. That's for the project web coordinator.
Okay,
That's
just that one?
Yes, right.
Otherwise, it's a land disturbance permit.
That's it, yes, sir.
Only source? What was your revenue last year? Just curious. Do you have it?
It was, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's
$55,000.
55,000, yes, sir.
Land disturbance fees are down.
The revenue was 55,000?
For last year.
Plus the,
There's a,
plus the contribution from the other entities, which is about 23 or 4,000.
Revenue, 63,000, something.
Right, and that's including the project wet contribution, and then I'm rolling back the land disturbance to 40,000.
Where's the rest of the budget come from?
It's an unfunded
Unfunded
mandate from the federal
EPA.
government
Yeah.
flowing through the state to us.
Darn those unfunded mandates.
That's just what it is.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, we're at a disadvantage as far as other municipalities. They have a stormwater fee that they charge their residents, and we don't do that. So that's
But we're being compelled to spend money in that
Yes.
arena, but no way.
You ain't got much choice but to prove it.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm
He's
not a
been
big
here,
fan
he
of
knows.
unfunded mandates, but it's something that we have to do, and I think that their budget's a good budget for, good increased amount, so.
Basically just moved 30,000 from contracted services to 30,000 part-time in-house. The rest of it's continuation.
Money not expended in this budget, where does it go?
County general,
goes back.
stays in county general.
All of our budgets, the previous one as well? Not all, but the
Building
previous.
building and codes, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
County general.
Anybody ain't got more questions, we need a motion. Move on, fella.
I move that we pass it on to budget.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Call roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
All right. And we'll go ahead now and just briefly go over the planning and engineering budget. When you look at the totals, you'll see that it is a fairly significant increase from last year. Most of the increase that we're asking for really comes out of two different line items. The first being line item 103, which is assistance. That's our planners and the inspectors and everything. We are proposing to add a new inspector position. Really, it's similar to Mr. Jones a little earlier. We had two engineering inspectors. They're the ones that go out to check the subdivisions for the road, the drainage, and those kind of things. We had two prior to the economy going into the recession that it did a few years ago. So we ended up losing one of those positions. What we're asking for is to reinstate that position. We're only putting it in this budget for 9 months, effective October 1st as opposed to the full year. But we are seeing, based on the lot inventory discussion we had earlier, we're starting to see more and more activity. Our current inspector, he's probably going to retire here within the next couple of years. So now would be a good time to start getting somebody on board to help with the load that we know is coming, and also to kind of break in someone new. Mr. Reed, Bob Reed, has been here for quite some time and has a considerable amount of institutional knowledge that, as hard as we may try, will be impossible to duplicate, but at least he could pass along some of that knowledge to a new person over the next couple of years. We are proposing to eliminate our part-time line item to help kind of offset that. We made that a part-time as needed position in this budget, but as it turns out, we feel that our current situation is we don't really need to have the part-time, so we're just taking that out entirely. The other major line item change that we're seeing on here is under 709 data processing equipment. You'll see we've got $35,000 budgeted, and this would be for a new office copier and a large format plotter. Our office copier, we first bought that particular copier when I first started working here about 8 years ago. And it's been a good machine, but it's showing its age, and we're pretty much on a first-name basis with the maintenance crew that comes and works on it almost on a weekly basis anymore. So the parts are getting harder and harder to come by because it's an older machine. It's getting more expensive for the maintenance contract with it. So we feel it's time to ask for a new machine at this point. Our large format plotter, that's the one we use to make a lot of our geographic information systems, GIS maps. The larger maps that we're able to print out. Again, that was bought about the same time as the copier, starting to have more and more maintenance issues with it as well. So we're proposing to put a little bit of money in our budget to help with those two pieces of equipment. We've spoke to Mayor Burgess about this budget. We know there's probably going to be some cuts to that particular line item. We're comfortable with that. We think we can get some decent machines for what his recommendation will be. So with that, most of everything else on here, the increases are really associated with the new position that we're requesting to add onto here. No real big increases outside of that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on our budget. And like if you want to add anything.
Yeah, we're not proposing to add any new vehicles. We're going to keep with the ones we have and just share best we can. And then we've got office space for them too, so we don't. It's just a salary is what we need.
Do we own that copier? Or
Yes,
do
sir.
we lease
No,
it?
we own all the major pieces of equipment like that. We own.
Yeah, I think they're increasing our maintenance fee because we've been using them so much. They're increasing the monthly fee on us.
Yeah, that fees in line item 334 maintenance agreements. So if we do get a new piece of equipment, that number may change somewhat, but this would be if we weren't to get any new equipment. That's what we anticipate for both our, we have a smaller copier that can handle smaller jobs, and then a wide format copier, which is in still pretty good shape. That's for the larger plats and papers that we copy, like 24 by 36 sheets and things we can copy on that. But that one's pretty solid. We're not really having any major issues with that.
Mr. Stevens, I'd be curious about your thoughts on the new employee.
Well, it sounds like they will need that, or
Currently, we only have the one inspector. For the city of Murfreesboro, they are larger and they do have more going on. They have 6 construction inspectors right now. So, Bob Reed, the fellow we have as a construction inspector, like Doug had mentioned, is planning on retiring in a couple of years, so we can reevaluate the workload at that time too, to see if we need to fulfill the next employee.
He's inspecting subdivisions and.
Right, construction of new subdivisions. And it would be nice to have a second set of eyes to help with the workload and also improve the contractor quality of work.
As I understand, you're wanting to bring this person on in time to could get them some training from the existing inspector.
Yes, sir,
That's
before he
correct. Yes, sir.
retires. Yes, sir.
And you're anticipating him retiring this coming year or?
2017, so it's
2017.
at midway, right at the end of the year, so, or end of the budget year, but, like I mentioned, we can evaluate it again if the economy's would support 2 inspectors at a time, but the workload we're seeing now, we've got more, people coming in online with more subdivisions. We see the increase in the workload. So,
Why did you put him off until October? What was your,
well, we.
I think that's frugal, but is that why you did it?
We've got a position with one of the inspectors with the city is going to retire with the city, and we see him as a potential asset to bring him aboard with all his years of experience. And he's going to take some time off during the summer and just enjoy life and before he goes back to work.
Can we use development tax money to buy the copier and that mapping thing?
There is development tax that is available, but what usually happens is Ms. Nolan, our finance director, we'll have more needs than we have money, so we'll spread it across, and whether we use it here or somewhere else, or technology, or cars or vehicles. I don't know exactly how we'll do it, but yes, it will be used for these kinds of things.
This is a relatively small
Yeah.
expenditure, and I was just wondering if we could buy that now out of our development tax money and then not fund it out of the
Well,
general fund.
Either way, it's going to affect, I mean, the net effect's going to be the same, because we're going to need all the development tax we got for next year as well, so
Take out
it
of
probably
here.
won't.
Roll
We'll use it
along.
frugally, and we'll spread it as carefully as we possibly can.
We might as well on this committee move it on. It's gonna pan out in the long run anyway, so. One way or the other.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I make a motion to accept this budget as presented and allow the next level to
Yeah,
scrutinize it anymore.
We'll say it's gonna go through a couple more levels
Yeah.
before, then the mayor's gonna do the thing.
I move to accept this budget as written.
Second that.
Call a roll on this.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes,
Commissioner Piercy?
And we're not accepting it, we're sending it on to budget, correct?
forwarding.
On to budget,
Well, you're accepting it as presented and forwarding to Budget
to
Committee.
budget. Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
That's an
Thank
important
you, Jennifer.
thought,
Thank you.
Steve. I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Reiterating that, 'cause
Thanks, y'all, sir.
Mac, man, you last. Looks like we were
why are you going last, Max?
Usually the mayor sits down and works with everybody's budget for about 30 minutes. We had a 2-hour meeting for mine, so.
Lucky,
So that tells you we are not.
we've run out of money, then we'll let you.
I talked with him earlier, and he said you had agreed if the money was close, you would just cut yours in half.
I think he misunderstood me.
No, he
Hey,
didn't
man.
say that.
All right, let's start out with the landfill report. That should be the top page on the reports. As you can see, the actual revenue is almost identical to last month, but it's not been quite as busy just because of weather-related activities going on. The mayor and I did discuss this during the budget time, and we've decided at this time not to, or just to leave things the way they are. So as far as charging everybody at the landfill. But
I'm looking at your budget worksheet. Where'd you want us right now?
on the report, solid waste report.
Thank you. Nothing stuff there. Thank you. With you.
Okay. But then let's move on into the convenience center, and the easiest way to look at the convenience center report would be to go to what I would call the last page, where it gives you the totals for the year. So if we look down at the bottom and we look at February for this year, you can see our tonnage is down quite a bit, but we've had a lot of, one, it's a short month, and then we've had more bad weather than we've had good weather, literally. So that does decrease that tonnage quite a bit. But the centers, when they have been open and the weather has been pretty, it has been extremely busy. And then when the weather's not been as pretty, they've still been relatively busy. But people tend to haul their trash when the weather's nice, and when it's really bad, not everybody does. But we still have people get out, no matter how sleek it is, how bad it is, and they still come. So. And then Commissioner Stevens asked me last month to look at return on investment for lock bars. As far as a dollar amount, I really can't come up with one effectively, but from the numbers that we have researched, Mondays and Tuesday routes are always the heaviest of the week, and we are attributing that to outside dumping. Monday a week ago, the schools had been closed the week before. This is the route sheet from the trash truck driver. And if you'll notice, there's a circle with some letters in it, and that's on about 2/3 of the schools that he serviced that day. That circle has the letter HT in it, stands for household trash. And I asked him how he determined that. Different color trash bags. Schools use usually either white or black trash bags. So when you got a different color in there, you can tell that came from somewhere else. So that's roughly 2/3 of them. The schools have been closed for the entire week. We didn't service any schools that week because they were closed. That Monday and Tuesday trash were the heaviest 2 days of just about the entire year. So that's showing us definitely that we do have outside dumping.
Well, I talked to the chairman of the school board and told him we were thinking about putting the lock bars on all the dumpsters, and he said that seemed to be reasonable to him, and he was going to even ask the building program, Mr. Clardy, if there was any money available or if they could put some cameras at a few of the schools where we have the problems.
Mhm.
So when we lock them, I'm afraid people are going to put their trash beside the dumpster.
Right.
But if we go ahead and have a camera there, we'll be able to see who does it and prosecute them. I think once a few people are prosecuted, we bring the video to the judge and show the judge that this person is the one that dumped the trash, I think word's going to get around not to do that anymore.
Well, and I hope you're right, but it may take some steering committee action to try to make sure we've got stiff enough penalties for that, and then make sure that the judges are on board. Right now, if we take something in there and we can't prove, with video evidence or anything else, it'll get thrown out. So it's kind of it got to the point for us, it's not worth prosecuting because we'll spend more time for nothing. But the camera system, some of them do have cameras in that area because most of the dumpsters are at the dock area to where the deliveries come in and out. And they do have cameras. Most of the cameras are not actually positioned to see the dumpsters. Some of them just happen to be in that view. But we've done a lot of research on it. I've talked with the city, the Murfreesboro school system as well, and mentioned to him about the lock bars. And he said, "So you're going to pay for it a week?" I said, "Well, I'd like for y'all to pay for it." And he said, "Well, we probably can find the money if we need to." They have fewer schools than the county does too. So I think it's going to be some positive results. And then the other thing that we've talked with both school boards about is the average number of students per yard of trash. And that's been getting some attention. So I think it's going to generate some competition between the schools. So I think we're going to make some progress in it. Of course, the wheels of government turn excruciatingly slow, so it may be next school year before we can get some of the results we're looking for. But I think we can definitely head that direction.
So how much was it going to cost to install those lock bars on the dumpsters that we have now?
The lock bar system, I did some more research on it. To buy the actual systems, depending on what brand you get and how the quantities you buy, you can get some free shipping with one company and the other one you can't. It's going to be anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 to buy the equipment. The contractor that we use to work on our stuff is going to be roughly $15,000. It's roughly an hour per container to do the installation. So, we're looking at $30,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, more or less.
Do you have that in your budget proposal for next year, or is that something that you would want us to go ahead and do now?
We can go either direction with it.
Are you supportive of that, Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
I think it will cut down on the amount of dumping that we have, and hopefully reduce the number of trips that you have to make.
We had an issue at one of the schools yesterday which really drew attention to this, and there will be a public notice or press release coming out probably tomorrow about it. So and it's got some pictures and stuff that explains pretty well what goes on.
So this will come out of your fund balance then, the funds to purchase these and have them installed?
It could come out of fund balance, but we'll pull it out of the budgeted line items or move some around, not actually go into fund balance. Our budget is not fully funded anyway. So if we were to actually spend everything that we're budgeted to spend this year, we would be deep into fund balance, and we're not intended to go that deep.
Well, I move that we approve the purchase and installation of the lock bars for the dumpsters.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Has it ever been tried to lock these type of dumpsters before?
Yes.
Was there any success at that?
Yes. In the private sector, the businesses, they lock a lot of theirs.
Okay. Carry on.
What was the failure when we've tried it previously? Did we lose locks and keys and we showed up and the locks were gone?
Well, previously, the school systems themselves had used like log chains.
Okay.
And of course, some of those log chains are expensive. People would take bolt biters and take the chain. They weren't there to put in trash. They were just there to get a nice chain.
We're just gonna do it right this time.
Yes.
Okay.
And the schools did that themselves at our request.
Well, Wayne Blair seemed optimistic about it, and I told him the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. If we don't try something different, we're gonna keep having the same problems. So I think this is a good step, and hopefully it'll curb some of the problems that we face.
There's a caveat to that. Do we have signage, adequate signage, telling the citizens you cannot dump here and do not leave trash here if these are locked?
We don't.
we
My
need
department doesn't do any of the signage at schools other than we supply the stencil for them to paint and recycle and the emblem on there. And then, of course, sometimes we'll go paint that on ourselves if they want us to. But the other signage at schools, no, we don't provide that.
You think that's
Can we provide
mandatory
that?
part of that to help
So
our
you're gonna
citizens?
find out a lot of these schools, it's people working there too.
Yeah.
When you get into this, it's gonna be deeper than you think it is.
Well, there's only gonna be a handful of keys for each dumpster, was what we had said before, correct?
If we purchase the locks, which I'd prefer not to, but if we go through and do the whole thing, and we purchase the individual locking system for each school, then my intent would be to give the principal of that school the key, and then how many copies he makes is on him. We'll give him a key to make a copy off of. And if we're purchasing the locks, we'll probably keep a key, just in case we need to get in it for something.
Are these for just recycle bins or all trash?
It'd be
at
all
campus?
trash bins,
All of them at the school?
trash and recycle.
How many schools do we have?
59, I believe.
59.
60. We're roughly 60 schools, 276 dumpsters. And before we actually start putting lock bars on through the route audits we've done, we're gonna get them to do some service changes. Some of them need to lose some containers, a couple of them need to gain a container. So there's no need in putting lock bars on all of them if they're not gonna be used. And some of it's, we've always done it that way, so it doesn't get changed. Smyrna Middle used to be Smyrna High, and it's got all the dumpsters it had when it was a high school, and they don't need them. But they put trash in each one of them, so we have to service them, so they need to lose some of their dumpsters. And there are several other schools in similar situations. But we'll have to put the lock bars out for bid. It'll be a high enough number to have to go through the bid process. And that's really all I had on the report. If you want to do something with that, or unless you have other questions, then we'll go into the.
We didn't vote on your.
We ain't
voted.
We have the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Seconded.
He's second. Okay, call a roll on it.
Read the motion again, please. It's just to buy them and
Approve the
Okay.
purchase and installation of lock bars for the dumpsters at the schools.
So I'd like to give us enough flexibility if the school systems decide they want to do it, we don't have to purchase them from solid waste, so I don't know how we should word that. Authorize the purchase of, if necessary. Just give us the authority to do what's necessary to make this happen with enough flexibility to maybe encourage them to pay for it if possible.
And please don't limit it just to schools. We'll do it, everything
For
we
all
service.
government.
Everything that we service.
Authorize the purchase, if necessary, and installation of lock bars for dumpsters.
I'm good with that.
You ready? Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Is your 276 just the schools, or that's all your dumpsters?
That's everything that we service. That's some county buildings and the schools.
Jail?
Jail's got 7.
No, not yet.
Y'all ready to dive into the,
We ready?
You have to approve the report.
Okay, need to approve the report.
I'll make a motion, we approve his report.
Anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, man.
what we're getting ready to go through is Fund 116. It's actually 5 budgets. It's total solid waste operations. The first budget you should see is titled Sanitation Education / Information. It's budget 55720. This budget is the litter crews that pick up the litter on the side of the road, all the equipment that they need, plus Ms. Kiesling is the education coordinator. So that's what's all in this one budget. The budget is almost a pass-through budget. The major changes are what little salary increases and benefits. The major line items are all the same that they have been.
It might be wise for you to take these individually as opposed to when you get to the very tail end.
All right.
I don't know, some of these are simple, sort of continuation budgets, and some of them are not.
55720.
Let's take the mayor's advice, and this is that all on that, Matt?
It's just half a page, 55720.
Yeah, that's the
It
first.
just
half
goes
of the
down
page.
to that one total.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then convenience centers picks up and goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're,
So in 55720, you're looking at 2 full-time employees, 1 part-time employee, 3 litter crew vans, 3 litter crew trailers, and a car, and then all the expenses to go along with those.
And that's, much of that is funded with a grant. About $95,000 funds that.
Well, I'll move that we approve the sanitation and education budget as presented and forward to Budget Committee.
second.
Any more discussion? Call the roll, then.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
The next budget, which is titled Convenience Centers, 55732. Of course, at the very top part of it is the salaries. You've got mine, and then the truck foreman, 13 drivers, 39 convenience center attendants, office staff, and mechanic, and then all the benefits that go along with those things. All the way down to line item 212. And then the next line item, 302. That's advertising. As you know, we've got a public relation campaign going on. So we're requesting to increase that budget line item to help pay for advertising and public relations and promotions. So that's a $15,000 increase for that one line item. And communication is pretty much the same. Lawn care, it stays pretty much the same until we get to line 338. There's actually a decrease of $30,000 in that one. We're gonna find it later.
But when he decreases there, he's gonna increase 418.
Right.
He just moved it from one line to another.
355 is labeled as travel. We use that for our training and education. We're actually asking for a little bit of increase there for some training and certification items. And then diesel fuel, we've asked for a little bit of an increase there, $10,000.
Where are you paving? Where are you asphalt? Line 402?
That's for paving convenience centers.
Maintenance paving is,
Well, sometimes we'll do a little patchwork, but it's actually to pave them all. Eagleville is on schedule to get paved this year. Sand Hill will probably need to be repaved, which will be in next budget year. That's all of it. Once we get Eagleville paved, all of them have been paved. Eagleville's the only one that's remaining that's not truly pavement. It was tire chip. And it's got a really good base on it. So what we're probably gonna wind up doing, instead of trying to get the grade right on it and tear up that base, we'll probably remove the trash compactor, pour another slab right on top of that existing slab, and then raise it up that way. Instead of, Mr. Brooks met me out there and he looked at it and he thought that was probably our best option, instead of disturbing the good base we have and digging it down and then try to create a good, better base. It may be cheaper and better for all of us just to raise that slab to get the proper drainage.
We need to take that in separate.
We've still got more to go on this one.
Okay.
418 is where you've got diesel fuel right above that. Increase the diesel fuel line item by $10,000. 418 is where you'd find that $30,000 would remove from the other one we're putting in there. Those two line items collectively is what we spend with Mack and Nashville. The 418 is for parts, and we've got our own mechanic that we're doing a lot of work with, so we're spending parts money and not labor money with them. We're readjusting those line items to get it to where we think it's going to be more accurate. And 433 lubricants, we've done a little increase there.
And you increase the diesel fuel by $10,000 based on more trips, higher fuel costs, what?
Well, right now, fuel cost is down,
I know it.
and we don't expect it to stay down. And once, my fear is once it starts going up, it's gonna go extremely high, so we want to just be prepared for it.
Go ahead.
And, increase in tires and tubes, as you can see, then what we've already expended is gonna be probably a little more than what we've already had budgeted. And then you get down to line 715, you can see that there's a slight increase in that from what we had in this year's budget to, that's a $1.5 million, to purchase property for the solid waste / maintenance facility. We have not found that piece of property yet. We've got some in mind, and we think that's gonna be a pretty close number, if and when we can come up with something.
how many acres? Are you kind of thinking your
10.
footprint?
10 to 20. And line 718 is a roll-off truck, just one. Line 724, you can see a little increase there. We've been asked to evaluate and look at, and we think this is probably the right thing to do, is the county owns property across the street from the Rockwell Convenience Center, which is quite a bit larger than the center property is currently. Rockwell is one of our smaller centers, so we're going to move across the street and build a new Rockwell Center across the street from the existing one. So the money would be it's not to buy the property, we already have the property, but just to do all the site prep and the gravel and asphalt and the fencing and utilities and all that kind of stuff.
What would happen to the old one? It would just be
The old-
inventory land for now?
Well, the old one actually, the fire department, we share that piece of property with the Rockville Fire Department. So they would, and it's really too small for both of us to be there. So the fire department would wind up having extra space to do whatever they needed to with it.
Are they a volunteer department or Rutherford County?
Now, Rockville is now part of the county.
It is.
Yes. That's Station 4.
The convenience center, we don't even have room for the recycle bins there. I mean, we have one or two of them. I'm not-
County.
That'd be a good deal there, cause they need
Well,
it,
that-
need this space.
The existing convenience center, that slab that compactor was set on was poured back in the late 80s. It's never been remodeled. The size of it is roughly the same size as it was in the 80s. It's got more containers in it than it had then. When we started with those things in the late 80s, the convenience centers, all of them had one trash compactor and 2 open tops. That's all they had. And it was plenty of service. The Rockville Center now has 5 open tops for trash, 1 for scrap metal, has a container for aluminum, and it has 1 container for paper, and then it's got the trash compactor, and that's all. It doesn't have any room for anything else. And then line item right under it, 733, you can see there's an increase in that. That's to buy the equipment to go with the new center. The recycled containers, the 2 trash packers, and a cardboard packer.
What's the grand total of that, of the convenience centers? Do you,
$4,339,000.
the bulk here?
And you can see that's an increase of 1.6 million, and 1.5 million is for the land. So there's a 100,000 net increase.
Yep.
Everything else on a continuing basis, including the construction of a new center at Rockville. So I mean, it's a good budget in that we haven't changed anything. He's reduced the number of trucks from 2 to 1, and he spent most of that money in a new convenience center at Rockville.
Your convenience center workers, do you have a raise built in your budget?
Yes, 25 cents per hour. They're in, line item
149?
149. That's, all that is convenience center attendance.
What's the fund balance on the solid waste fund?
I don't know, it has,
It's a little
I
less.
do know, but I've forgotten, to be honest with you.
It's
There's
between
not,
3 and 4 million.
there's not enough likely fund balance for us to continue to be comfortable to buy this land out of his complete fund balance. I think we have enough to do it, but it would put us in a position we would think it was not enough margin for next year and to
So
go
is that gonna be
forward.
something we do with a
You end
bond?
up putting him in a hole.
Well, we don't know, likely we may need to borrow this money. Because when we build a building, that again is going, and this is going to be something that's not just for solid waste. I mean, we're going to have a vehicle maintenance building and center there. Hopefully that will take care of all of our county general vehicles, the maintenance of them.
But there's no building money in here.
And
Gentlemen, I would invite any of you who would like to see how building maintenance or vehicle maintenance is operating, or the conditions that they're operating in, to come over to 1220 in the basement of 1220 West College and look at that.
Yeah.
And
Right.
see
I don't say to do what they got.
and to how the environment that they have to work in and what they do. And it'll give you a great appreciation. So I encourage everyone to go over and do that.
Of course, this 1.5 million is just for the property. That's not any building or construction.
But it gives us a lot of flexibility for the future. I mean, we need to buy enough to carry us, not just 3 or 4 or 5 years, but maybe 10 to 20 years, hopefully. We need a fueling station, and at some point, we don't have one. We have a contract service that has a few locations that we can access fuel in the county. So between solid waste and potential and convenience center / recycling center, vehicle maintenance, fueling station. There are a lot of needs here.
Would this close the one at Haley Road?
No.
We
If-
likely
if-
would do that. Haley Road is.
Haley Road, if we move the electronics to the new location, would be okay, but as far as the recycle center itself for those 6 commodities, it would stay open.
So we couldn't sell that property, or it's
It
not?
it has
we could.
nominal value. It's got a power line right across diagonal of the main part of the whole property.
It's got a city sewer line easement down the left side. It's got a stormwater easement down the right side. It's got wetlands back behind it, and it's got TVA power lines across the middle of it that takes 150 foot of the right of way. So there's not a lot of room left to do stuff.
Knocking it out.
But as far as keeping it for a recycle center, I think we can do that.
The property management committee they haven't given any approval. They've given us permission to seek property and to bring back, if we find something that we think is reasonable, bring back to them a proposal for purchase if and when we identify something that we can work with.
So that $1.5 million be best served in his budget or somewhere?
But right now, just leave it here, but probably it's going to support more than just solid waste, so we shouldn't just make solid waste pay for this. It's probably solid waste, county general, and the ambulance
And
service.
fire.
And what else?
Fire department.
And the fire department. So we may need to spread this across how we're going to get it. It'll be out of 3 funds: solid waste, county general, and the ambulance fund. So you can prove this subject to review by budget and finance as to which of these funds will actually pay for this at some point. Okay, we just wanted to land this here since this is the leading need part of it.
Just a little clarity, you have most of our equipment, rolling stock. Does
He's got the big
solid
book.
waste have the bulk of our equipment?
Fire
As
department.
opposed to ambulance, fire, and.
Well, ambulance has probably got more vehicles than he has.
Ambulance has got,
He's
I think
the
they've got
big
28 or
vehicles.
29 ambulances. We've got 19 big trucks.
Okay.
The fire department's got more than that.
Yeah.
The ambulance service is more than that.
This will put us in a position to do work on our fire engines as well, those pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
What we've done is we've been taking steps getting prepared for this. We hired a driver almost 2 years ago now. It's ASC certified mechanic and everything that they offer, and he's been driving for us. And in this year's budget, we moved him to a mechanic position. Last year, we sent him to a pump school for the fire department to where he can now rebuild those pumps. In May, I think we're sending him to an apparatus school to learn about how to work on the apparatus other than the pumps itself. So we're gearing up to where if we have this facility in place, it will be certified mechanics and they're working. And to my knowledge, right now, we have the only pump certified mechanic in Rutherford County.
But we don't have a
Private
place to
end.
pull the vehicle inside out of the rain and cold to work on it.
That it?
That's it on the convenience center budget. We still have 3 more to go.
Yeah. You want to get all of them and take this?
I think you need to take this one since it's got that land in it. And you can put some sort of language in here that subject to the proper identification by finance and budget as to where the 1.5 should actually come from, okay? If you took that out, this would be a pretty much continuation budget.
Somebody want to make that motion?
Well, all right, I'll move that we approve the budget as presented and forward it to Budget Committee with the $1.5 million for the land purchase to be further scrutinized by the Budget Committee and others, and that the $1.5 million be allocated by the department if necessary.
If necessary. Good.
Need a second.
I'll second that.
Got any more questions? All over.
Okay, your motion is to accept as presented, subject to, the finance, budget committee scrutinizing the, property and assessing the 1.5 million to the appropriate departments if necessary. Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Next budget is titled Other Solid Waste, 55739. That's basically our Haley Road operation and our recycle operation. Within it, it's got 1 full-time employees and basically 6 part-time employees. We've been carrying 4 part-time employees all this time. Now we've got the interns. We've put them in there to increase that to 6. So you'll see that line 169 actually has an increase in it. And then all the employee benefits and things like that carry you down through line 212. And then the only other real change in it is line 312. We've actually decreased it by $25,000. That's what we're paying, or the line item to pay for electronic disposal. You know, they charge us for televisions and computer monitors, and so we're having to pay that out. Right now, what we're doing is, if you're a business entity, you pay. We charge you by the pound. And if you're a resident and you bring more than 2, you pay. At some point, we may want to look at everybody pays for whatever we have to pay for, but that's not what we're proposing tonight.
So we're still gonna have to pay. We're just trying to offset it. We're still gonna have to pay this third party to take our product.
Yeah.
If you're just estimate how many pounds you're gonna
Right.
sell.
Mhm.
Okay. Or not sell, but fee.
And then line 733 says solid waste equipment. What that's actually in there for in this budget is there's recycle rebate money coming from the state, and it's matching money. So you have to spend the money for them to reimburse you half of whatever you spent. What we use that line item for most often, now that we've learned that we can do it, is their salaries. We'll wait roughly halfway through the year to where we've already paid the full-time employee and the part-time employees their salaries, and then we'll use that money to apply against the rebate. Was it 3-4 years ago, we bought a forklift, and we used that matching money for that. But that money changes. The way it comes through is the city of Murfreesboro, Laverne, and Smyrna have the first bite at that apple, and we have a small percentage. Any bite that those cities don't take, then we get. So if none of the 3 cities take any of that rebate money, then the county gets all of it.
Why would they not take it?
If
Cause they
they
have to
don't-
spend, okay.
If they don't have anything, that the city normally, when they use theirs, is to buy new teeth for the tub grinder or something like that. So occasionally they will use part of theirs. But the total for that budget is almost exactly a wash.
Why is Haley Road separated? Why is it so much more significant?
The recycle stuff that we do has to be in a separate budget. That's through the way the state does it. So that's the other waste collections. So we've just got the Haley Road in there with it. It's a $284,000 budget. It's actually $500 less than current budget.
Got anything else in that? Is that it?
That's it on that, but on that one.
On that one? Okay. Need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the other waste collections as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
The next budget is the landfill operations and maintenance budget, 55754. Currently, there's the top 3 line items are for employees. Currently, there's only 2 of them fulfilled positions. The equipment operators are unfilled. And then you follow down to line 212, that takes care of all the benefits for those people.
Why did 205 go down so much? Am I reading it right?
205 employee benefits, insurance
Decreased?
decrease. We don't have any employees in those positions right now, so there's no insurance
Okay.
that's been signed up for. 312 contracts with private agency. Asking for a little increase there.
What's that?
At the, most of what that one is our contractors that move their dirt, pushes their trash, stuff like that. But we don't have anybody in line 149 because we've got private contractors actually doing that work.
And they're, or we're budgeting an increase in contracts with private agencies. A pretty significant increase.
50,000, yes.
Was was there a bid for that activity?
Yes, that bid was open last month.
What occurred? Who got it?
We had 2 companies bid on it. Also was one of them, Melton was the other. Also is our current provider, and they actually went down on most of their prices. And Melton was pretty close to what the existing one was, so we awarded a contract also.
Same one already had it.
Yes.
Both of them died.
And 321's engineering services. That's our engineering contractors that does our testing and our models and drawings and all that kind of stuff. We're in the process of getting ready to do the final plan for the final plat of the landfill C&D site. And of course, once they get finished with all that drawing, that's going to be kind of expensive. And 359 disposal fees, that's tires. Where we deal with the waste tires we had to pay. The contractor for that is Liberty Tire. That contract will actually expire in August. We'll have to rebid that. Currently, we're paying $65 a ton and no transportation fee. So I'm sure when that contract expires, that number's probably going to change.
The fee for disposing of tires, does it cover a percentage of, just some small percentage of?
The $1.35, if you go and buy a new set of tires, they'll charge you $1.35 per tire pre-disposal fee. 10 cents of that money the dealer keeps, 25 cents of that money the state of Tennessee keeps. The dollar left is for us to get for disposal. Now for a regular car tire, 15 or 16 inch tire that weighs roughly 25 pounds, that dollar will cover the disposal cost. Now if the tire gets larger than that, it does not cover. They also charge that same $1.35 on a tractor trailer tire, and it costs almost $5 to get rid of one of those.
Any thoughts of increasing our fee to receive tires? Is it something
It's
we
not
can
our
do?
fee to set.
That's the state.
The state sets all of that?
Yeah, the state
They
sets
tell
all
us what
that.
we can get.
Pumps?
Used to, the way it was set up through a grant system, so we would have to ship the tires out, pay to get rid of them, and then we would apply to get reimbursed. They changed it effective this year, started July 1, that DOR just sends us the money. So all those dollars that we used to have to apply for to get, we don't have to apply to get them now, we just get it. But we do have to track all of our expenditures and make sure that all that money that comes in is spent for tires only, which is not enough to cover everything that we do, so it's not a problem for us. We actually increased the line item. If you look back at 2 years ago, budget was 233. We increased it by $100,000. We're still waiting to see if that's going to be a good number. Right now it doesn't look like it needs to be higher than that. But maybe next year we'll have a better idea of what it is, and may be able to decrease that number just a little. line items in there.
Do you plan on filling those positions that are open right now?
The mayor and I have discussed that, and that's part of what he may change. If you look at what it cost us to have those positions filled and run our equipment versus what it cost us to hire it done, it's a pretty close number.
So but we're already paying somebody else to do it.
Right. So what we actually have in this budget, the way it's proposed right now, it's funded both directions. It's funded to have employees, and it's funded to have it done by contractors.
Is the contractor furnishing his equipment?
Yes, sir. Everything.
They're paying their employees the benefits too.
Huh?
They're paying their benefits and
Yeah,
things for
but
their
you're gonna be
employees.
buying equipment if you're gonna be hiring people.
Yeah, I mean, they're running their own equipment, they're
They're
repairing,
running theirs.
they're putting their own fuel in, they're maintaining, so.
Right.
You're gonna go in the equipment business and all too, and fuel and all too.
But it's working, what they're doing is working for us.
Yes, it
Do
is.
they buy the ton or the hour?
They operate by the hour.
By the hour.
The way the contract was led is it's so much per hour per piece of equipment.
Are we making sure they're loading their trucks to capacity, or have trucks that are we monitoring that?
Yeah, we've got-
So they're as proficient as possible. A lot of hours can get racked up with.
Yes, you're right.
Inefficiency.
And
and we-
it's hard to watch all of it really
Sure,
closely,
of
but
course
yes.
it is, yeah.
Yes, we try to watch that. But the way these budgets, this whole department budget is set, it's not fully funded. So any money that is funded in here that does not get spent goes back to solid waste fund, does not go to the general fund. But any shortfall in income comes out of the solid waste fund.
There's no property tax in this fund. It's all revenue from tipping fees and et cetera. And these tires, we're getting most of that money, but not all of that. So there is some sales tax revenue that comes in here, but there is no property tax.
So if we took the two positions out that are open right now, you're still gonna move on just fine?
Yes.
I mean, if it's in the budget, it's more likely to be spent than if it's not appropriated.
It could be spent. I mean, it's been in the budget this way until we got a good feeling that we have enough experience with our contract services. We know that it's working. And we have enough information, we believe, that it's not, we probably can't do it any cheaper. And it would put us in a position of having to acquire equipment and maintain equipment, and this is heavy equipment. Mr. Dodd knows full well that the maintenance and repair of this can be substantial.
I believe we got the best setup we got right here without trying to get into business.
You don't have to approve the budget because you can just do as you've been doing. You can send it on to budget for recommendation. But this is the one budget that the mayor will make changes in.
We have our 2-hour meeting, this one, and the next one was almost an hour of it.
Well, I move that we send the landfill operation budget on to the budget committee with everything except the line item for laborers.
Well, it's even broader than that. There are other items down here. We have repair and maintenance and fuel and et cetera that we could run our own operation. So anything that applies to us bringing it in-house to provide these services will likely not be recommended. So it's more than just that one line item, is all I'm suggesting.
Do you want to
And
amend
she
your
can make a
motion?
some sort of broad statement to cover that.
Okay, so to eliminate the line item for laborers and then any other associated costs that aren't deemed necessary.
Okay.
Do you want it to say accept as presented and forward to budget committee without the laborers and associated costs not necessary, or just start with forward to budget?
Okay, say that again now.
Do you want to accept it as presented or just forward it?
It's just forward to budget.
Need a second.
Second.
So we're just following, we ain't gonna approve what he's recommended here.
Well, it's without the laborers and associated costs not necessary.
question.
Yeah. The labor that we're cutting out, what is it?
They was two laborers or equipment operators that we have had at the landfill, but those.
Have had.
Yes, those
They haven't
positions
been
are unfilled.
Those positions
And
have
this
been
money's
open
being
for,
used for what
Nothing.
now?
It's just
Just
sitting
sitting there, like an extra fee.
but the positions are
It's
just
in the
there.
budget, and then when we finish this year's budget, because we're not gonna fill those positions this year, it just rolls back into fund balance.
Keeping them in the budget.
And is this contracted service, you don't need them.
Unless we buy new equipment and maintain it.
They haven't been filled for 2 or 3 years now. If this was having to be funded by property tax, we would not have left them in here, since there's no property tax, so we don't have to add to the property tax if we leave them in here. But we think we should likely take them out because we're not going to use them or need them.
Just cleans the budget up.
Just cleaning it up.
Ready to call the roll?
And call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
All right, the last budget is the post-closure budget, 55770. That budget is basically to keep the old closed landfill maintained and to do whatever groundwork we need to do to keep the elevations corrected and the drainage correct and repair any things that's happened to it. There's no labor, no manpower in that budget.
The private company, is it also as well?
It can be. Now, on this one, sometimes we have to drill a new well, or we have to do some of those type stuff, so that would also cover whoever contract that we have to award
We're not
that type
committed
of
on
work
that.
to.
Why the 50,000 increase? Or do
We still have some issues out there that we're gonna have to address. Some of it is gonna be some gas migration issues, so we're probably gonna have to do either some more drilling or some more vent type work.
Well, that place is a monster, isn't it?
Any other question? Any motion?
Basically, the increase in that budget is going back to what it was the year before. We had decreased it in this budget year, and we're actually just going back up to what it was the year before. Not in that line item, but in a different line item.
I'll move to send the budget with a positive recommendation on the post-closure cost.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait, roll call.
Okay,
Roll call.
all rolling.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
And y'all have two more behind those.
We have employee benefits miscellaneous.
And I don't have anything to do with those. Those are just pass-throughs that the finance department puts through once they get everything finalized. Now, I populated numbers in there, but the numbers I put in are the ones that were already existing, just to make the totals come up.
Those kinds of adjustments will be made to all of the other budgets by finance when we get the actual numbers that should go there. So this is not something we need to address.
Now, assuming that if we do reel in our benefits package somewhat and save some money from the general fund, I would like to start putting a little bit of the property tax money into the solid waste budget, because we all know what's coming. We've got to find a way to start saving some money and planning on how to pay for it.
Right.
So if we can cut our expenses on the benefits package with the pensions and health insurance somewhat, I think we can save a lot of money by doing that. And I'd like to take some of that money and put it into your budget to start planning for this transition that's coming.
The reason solid waste doesn't have any property tax dollars in it was several years ago, the solid waste fund balance was like $15 million. So the county commission wisely chose to stop putting property tax into it and actually short fund the budgets and to spend down that fund balance. So we have done that over the years, and we're down to somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5 million. When we started this budget year, Mr. Mayor, we had enough money in fund balance to fund this year's budget, and that was it, if we didn't get anything else. So we get some sales tax dollars, we get host fee from Middle Point, we get some grant monies, and then we generate the rest of the revenue, sell recycled material, tipping fees at the landfill, that type of stuff, and then whatever shortfall left comes out of fund balance. So this budget is actually a little bit unique compared to most of them. It's like having your own savings account at home. You got some money in the bank and you're not planning on spending it, but you got it if you need it. So the fund balance is similar to that for us. We just have to come to where you go and sit down with your wife to discuss it. We have to come to the county commission and say, hey, we need some of this money. So
Does anybody, what other departments have that fund balance?
They all have fund balances. Your
Oh,
county
okay.
general fund balance, you
Is
have a
that
policy that's
mandated?
supposed to be
It's just not
15%
funded.
of your operating budget, your appropriation for that year. So it has a substantial amount of fund balance. The ambulance fund balance, it has a fund balance, but its fund balance is it's a new entity, you might say, so it hasn't ever had much fund balance, so it's got a small fund balance.
Any other department not receive property taxes? Like,
I don't know
Well,
the answer.
the Highway Department receives a nominal amount of property taxes, it's not very much.
Just a small, really small.
and we don't do their budget.
No, that's right.
We've got to get this department self-sustaining, so when the landfill does close, we'll be able to pay for the trash removal. Or if we do the on-site
Waste
energy
energy.
generated, we'll have some money to pay for that coming down.
Well, yes, but to get that energy plant built, you're looking at millions of dollars. So you're gonna have to fund the building of it to get
With
it in
the
place.
bond. But
Yes.
we'll have operating money if the sales, if the property tax money is going to your department.
Right. And then, you know, once, if it turns out to be what everybody thinks it is, and it's actually a revenue producer, and then you kind of reverse that, go the opposite direction with it. Hopefully pay back all the money with it first, and then it would have money to spend on something else.
Thanks for the effort, Matt,
You're
on
welcome.
all this.